understand that there is a big difference between ad-dalil and al-istidlal. Ad-dalil is that evidence you want to use, or that evidence you want to quote. Al-istidlal is how you use that evidence. So every single person quoting a dalil, he must have husn al-dalil. That dalil needs to be strong, wa husn al-istidlal, and you must also apply the dalil just as you should. Subhanallah. ما بال الأمة ما بال الإخوة. That the best thing they do when it comes to da'wah is naming and shaming. لماذا? Alayhi salam was never like this. The best thing they do when it comes to da'wah is naming and shaming people one after the other. This is this. This is this. This, don't go close to him. This, don't take from him. This doesn't have the right idea. And all of these things. Why? And they will tell you, we are trying to carry out what Allah has placed upon us when He says, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالتَّنَوُّنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. That we are trying to command people to do good. We are trying to forbid people from doing evil. For that reason, you think the best way to do it is naming and shaming. Let's go back to alayhi salam. A lot of things happened during the time of alayhi salam. That people would do crazy things. Even publicly, alayhi salam would come to the minbar and say, Ma balu aqwami, what is wrong with my people? He wouldn't say, Ma balu fulan or fulan, what's wrong with this person? He would not mention that name. Because what we need is the deed, not the doer. We do not care about the doer. What we need is the deed. For example, when the people of Barira were placing conditions that were not part of Islam, alayhi salam came to the minbar and said, Ma balu aqwami yashtarituna shartan laysa fi kitabillah. What's wrong with people? Why do people feel the need to place conditions that Allah doesn't accept? Alayhi salam did not say, Ma balu Barira wa qawmiha. What's the problem with the people of Barira? No. Allah revealed to alayhi salam the munafiqun one after the other. Why didn't alayhi salam go to the minbar and say, هَؤُلَاءِ الْمُنَافِقُونَ فَاحْذَرُوهُ? These people are the munafiqun, stay away from them. Umar bin al-Khattab, the same thing. Whenever someone does something, he comes to the minbar and says, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ, all you people, not naming and shaming people. Ali ibn Abi Talib, the same thing. When he found the Khawarij, he said, leave them. Soon Allah is going to do something that would expose them. But just leave them alone. Even though he knew them, that they were the Khawarij. So where did we find ours from? All of these unnecessary labeling, naming and shaming, لَيْسَ مِنَ الدِّينِ فِي شَيْءٍ. I'm not going to tell you that, the scholars of the past, they used to name and shame people. Now the question is why? Number one. Second one is who has the right and license to name and shame? The third one is when do you name and shame? People do not want to study, but they want to speak on behalf of Allah. This is never ever going to happen. Naming and shaming is part of the deen. When it comes to the aspect of hadith, for the scholars of hadith. And the only reason why they do that is because they're trying to protect the words of alayhi salam. They want to make sure that whatever you're narrating from alayhi salam is authentic. For that reason, if they know that this person lies, they'll say, don't take from him, he lies. So probably we'll say alayhi salam said something and he never said it. If they know this person is fasik, they'll say, Hada fasik, don't take from him. They will name and shame him categorically because they do not want you to take hadith from him. But you believe it's for everyone today. That you can name and shame everyone. And every single person has the right to name and shame. And they'll tell you as long as what I'm saying is part of that brother, even regardless. We don't care if what you're saying is in that brother, because if it's not even with him, Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's a bigger problem for you. But even those that had the license to name and shame, look at their lifestyle. Read about them. Everyone today agrees that Asahul Kutub Ba'da al-Quran Sahih al-Bukhari. That the most authentic of books after the Quran is Sahih al-Bukhari. And Imam al-Bukhari, if anyone doesn't have the right to name and shame in the Ummah, and Imam al-Bukhari has that right. Because he was one of the greatest scholars of Hadith that this Ummah ever witnessed. At the same time, someone went to meet him, al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, I never hear you name and shame people, even though you scholars of Hadith have the license to do that. He says, what would I do Yawm al-Qiyamah if that person brings that statement before me and Allah? If I say something about someone, even though it is true, but Yawm al-Qiyamah he brings that statement before Allah, what do I do with this statement? For you to know how careful they were. Yahya ibn Ma'in, that these same people, they're always ascribing themselves to. The Subhanallah, Yahya ibn Ma'in was one of those that used to name and shame people at his time. The same Yahya ibn Ma'in was saying, we find some people that because we're trying to protect their ahadith of alayhi salam, we name and shame them just for people not to take from them, not because we have anything against them. But these same people, they've been in Jannah hundreds of years ago. Allah has put them in Jannah. We are only trying to protect the hadith. Meaning, they're not doing all of these things out of their own selfish interests. They have reasons for these things. But we do not have reasons for them. And most times if we do, it's because of our own selfish interests. And even these same people, and I'll give you instances, these same people that some scholars used to name and shame back then, they still used to take from them. They still used to treat them with good. They still used to associate with them. Because they had nothing personal against them. They treat them like Muslims. They give salam to them. They treat them good. But for some reason today you believe a non-Muslim is deserved to be treated better than a Muslim because he's an innovator. Subhanallah, anna laka hada. وَالْأَمْثِلَةُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ كَثِيرٌ. There are a lot of evidences about this. But no one, you wouldn't know why, because you did not study. Whenever they ask you for evidence, all you do is forward and share YouTube videos. You do not read books. You did not have scholars. You studied under them. So you can't know all of these things. You cannot know it because it's not meant for people like you. To whom this may concern, naming and shaming is not meant for you. And I have every right to say this because they are the wa'abit, their rules and principles for naming and shaming. It is not for you. And even when you get to think about it, the great scholars, would you not find them doing this all the time? Why is it this person that can't even speak Arabic properly that's telling me alayhi salam says this, Allah says this? What do you understand about what Allah says? You can't even speak Arabic properly. We feel Islam is something we can practice based on emotions. Kalla. It never works that way. A lot of the Salaf, they had these issues between themselves, and how did they settle it? Issues of naming and shaming, wama ila dhalik. For example, one of the scholars back then of hadith, he would say, don't take from Abu Hanifa when it comes to hadith. Obviously that's naming and shaming. He says, when it comes to hadith, don't take from Abu Hanifa because his memorization is weak. He's only saying that out of sincerity because he wants to protect the hadith. And do you know why we say he's saying it out of sincerity? Because even that same scholar that said that statement, he uses the madhab of Abu Hanifa. Scholars will tell you that when it comes to the knowledge of hadith, don't take from Asim ibn Abi Najud. But still they recite the Quran with the riwayah of Asim ibn Abi Najud. So if actually that mistake or that naming and shaming made them boycott it, then we wouldn't have anything today. And Imam Ahmad was saying, لَوْ تَرَكْتُ أَحَادِيثَ أَهْلِ الْكُوفَةِ لِلْقَدَرِ. If actually I live the ahadith of the people of Kufa, I do not take hadith from them just because they have issues with qadar. A lot of them are qadariyah. وَتَرَكْتُ أَحَادِيثَ أَهْلِ الْبَصْرَ لِلْتَشَيُّعِ. And I leave the hadith of the people of Basra just because a lot of them are Shia. لَخَرِبَتِ الْكُتُبِ. You wouldn't have nothing in these books. If not the consideration those scholars did, do you think we would have a bit of this knowledge we have today? But these people, Allah bless them with wisdom and knowledge. We do not have the wisdom, we do not have the knowledge. So things they did not do out of carefulness, we just dive into it. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, even if they made mistakes, Allah would reward them, Allah would punish you because you're doing yours based on ignorance. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا. Allah says, Ya Rasulullah, tell them that this is my path. I call unto Allah عَلَى بَصِيرًا, based on insight, based on knowledge. Ikhwat al-kiram, filter your externals. If you have anyone as friends that all they do is name and shame people, cut them off. If you're in any group that the only thing they do is name and shame people, remove yourself. If you listen to anyone that all they do is name and shame people, don't listen to them. Stay away from them. Filter what you hear, because Allah's going to ask you Yawm al-Qiyamah. Filter what you see, because Allah's going to ask you Yawm al-Qiyamah. Filter what you say, because Allah's going to ask you Yawm al-Qiyamah. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Imagine people saying that whenever someone is calling to Allah or saying whatever, don't take what he's saying, even if it's true, don't take it until you look into his background and see where he's coming from. What is your dalil upon this? Someone is telling me Allah says, someone is telling me turn back to Allah, someone is telling me la najata in Allah. You're telling me I have to look into his background before I can accept what he's saying. Just because you want to segregate that person. Just because you want to make people stay away from that person. You're saying the asl is that we don't know what he's upon, so we have to find out what he's upon. Is it your business? Did Allah send us to spy on each other? If he has anything that's wrong, point it out. Don't say because we don't know him, then we have to start looking and digging and researching about our brother. No. And what's the evidence for this? Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu, he says, Al-Muslimuna kulluhum udul. That every single Muslim is upright. So treat Muslims in the upright state until you find something that proves it otherwise. A clear evidence. Not a YouTube video. Ibn Abdul Bar al-Maqdisi, he says the same thing. He says, Al-Aslu fil Muslim al-Adala. That the origin of a Muslim is for him to remain on the upright state. And when they say al-Adala, it means al-Adala is a personality, malakatun, tahmilu sahibaha ala munazarati taqwa wal muru'ah. A personality that always drives that person to do things Allah wants. So Umar bin Khattab is saying that's the origin of every Muslim. Until proven otherwise, with concrete evidence. With concrete evidence. Ibn Abdul Bar, he says the same thing. Even in this hour, Asr, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he says the same thing. The Al-Asr fil Muslim, in Sharh al-Mumti', he says Al-Asr fil Muslim, the origin of every Muslim, أن يكون على كتاب الله, is for him to be upon the book of Allah, وعلى سنة رسول الله. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But you are telling me the asl of a Muslim is that we have to research from him, or we have to research about him, or find out who he is, where he's coming from, who his fathers were, before we can take from him. SubhanAllah, you see these brothers twisting a hadith. Do due to lack of knowledge and self-interests. Misinterpreting ayat of the Quran, a hadith of alayhi salam. I'll give you a very quick one. A brother came to me saying, he heard one of his brothers saying that there was this hadith where Allah said, where alayhi salam says, you should never accommodate an innovator into your house. I said, okay, what's the hadith? He brought the hadith. The hadith says, وَمَنْ آوَى مُحْدِثًا. وَمَنْ آوَى مُحْدِثًا. It's a very long hadith. But that place, it says, وَمَنْ آوَى مُحْدِثًا. So they said, muhdithan, in that case, means an innovator. So Allah says, anyone who brings close to him, maybe to his house or whatever, an innovator, then may the curse of Allah be upon him. Subhanallah. Due to your own lack of knowledge. Now you want to make your own problem the problem of the ummah. No. When you say muhdith in the Arabic language, it means anyone who commits a great sin. And in that case, alayhi salam was referring to the Kaaba. That this Kaaba, the Bayt of Allah, we have cleansed it, we have purified it. We have purified it. So anyone who commits a great sin in this Kaaba, then may this be upon him. But you are saying anyone who accommodates an innovator. Alayhi salam was talking about anyone who accommodates such person, not an innovator. Because if that was the case, then are you trying to tell me that there is a counter between the ayah of the Quran and the hadith? Because Allah says in the Quran that وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرُهُ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ. That if one of the disbelievers and mushrikun, if they come to you for accommodation, accommodate them حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ, till they hear the words of Allah. But you are saying, and Salam says, do not accommodate them due to your own lack of knowledge. Don't listen to these brothers, they never studied. They do not know anything about the deen. All they do is share and spread across false information. That even these people, these scholars that they share from them, wallahi, if some of them were to be woken up from their graves and said, this is what people are doing with the things you said in this dunya, wallahi, they would curse them. Because they never intended it that way. And the way they lived their lives made us understand that they never intended it that way. This is very disheartening. The scholars of the past, even when someone makes a mistake, even when someone does or says what they shouldn't say, as long as we know that person to be an upright person, they always do two things. They try as much as possible to merge between these two things. The first one is al-nasihatu lillah. We have to be sincere with the deen of Allah. We have to make it understood that, yeah, this is a mistake. But at the same time, we try to protect their honor. But people today think you can only respect the deen of Allah by disrespecting people's honor. That whenever anyone does something, just humiliate that person and cancel that person because you want to uphold the deen of Allah. Kalla. And Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says these two, they go hand in hand. And the only person that's going to think it's not possible, it's either someone that's not even knowledgeable enough to respect the scholars, or someone who knows nothing about the deen. But anyone who has this two would understand that yes, we can combine between both. And I'll give evidences. Brothers, billahi alaykum, if you can give me just 10 more minutes, bihawlillahi ta'ala. Unashirukum billah. Unashirukum billah. Because this concerns the whole ummah. This is something we all should pay attention to. And we're trying to bring evidences of things like this that happened back then in the past and how they solved it between themselves. And how it never became a problem. Barakallahu ta'ala feekum. So as I was saying, a very good example. Do we all know? I bet a lot of people do not know. Do we know that Ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu ta'ala, one of the greatest Sahabas when it comes to the knowledge of the Quran. Ibn Mas'ud never believed that Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas were part of the Quran. Ibn Mas'ud never believed that. He believes that Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas, they were not part of the Quran. They are just Mu'awwidhatan, alayhi salam, uses them to do ta'weed for Hassan and Hussein. He said, no, they're not part of the Quran. And now he narrated the hadith. And Imam al-Bukhari narrated the hadith. The hadith is found in Sahih al-Bukhari. Do you know what Imam al-Bukhari did? And Imam al-Bukhari removed that portion where it says Ibn Mas'ud doesn't believe that these two things are part of the Quran. He removed that portion out of that hadith. To do what? To protect the honor of Ibn Mas'ud. Because if anyone hears today that Ibn Mas'ud doesn't believe it's from the Quran, you start to doubt. He's even a Sahabi. But it wasn't the way we take it to be. So he removed that to protect Ibn Mas'ud's honor. So we get to understand that this person is a great person. Don't think for this reason you have a right to speak about him. He now mentioned that even though some people said it is not part of the Quran, he did not say Ibn Mas'ud. Why didn't he name him and shame him publicly? And Imam al-Bukhari in that case, he combined between both. He upheld the honor of Ibn Mas'ud, and at the same time, he respected the Quran, the Deen. He protected Islam, and he protected the honor of Ibn Mas'ud. That's how we should do it. Don't say because the brother makes mistakes that just leave him. Don't take from that brother. He is this, he is that. No, the Salaf never did it that way. And this lesson, who did Ibn Mas'ud take it from? Alayhi salam. I'll give you an example. This is even worse. When we have captives in the deen, people we capture from battle, what do? We hold them, yeah? Al-Mubarak. Alayhi salam, when he went to Ta'if to give da'wah, and they threw him out of Ta'if and brought him back to Mecca. When he was coming back to Mecca, no one could escort him into Mecca. He needed someone to take him into Mecca. No one offered to, because everyone was scared. The only person that time who did was Al-Mut'im ibn al-Adi. Mut'im ibn Adi, he was a kafir and he died a kafir. But at the same time, he said, I would escort you, Ya Rasulullah. So he brought all of his family, everyone, and they escorted alayhi salam back into Mecca. And that favor that Mut'im ibn Adi did, alayhi salam never forgot. Over 20 years after Fatih Makkah, when the Muslims held the kuffar captives, alayhi salam made a statement. He says, لو كان المطعم بن علي حيا ثم كلمني في هؤلاء ابنتنا لتركته لهم. If Mut'im bin Ali, which was a kafir, you know Allah says hold them captives, yeah? Mut'im bin alayhi salam says, if Mut'im bin Ali, if he was alive and he spoke to me, he pleaded to me on the behalf of these people to let them go, alayhi salam says, I would let them go. Look at alayhi salam trying to uphold the honor of a kafir, trying to pay back what a kafir did. And now you find someone that has done several good things into Islam, but because of one mistake you want to label him. Because of one mistake you want to take him out. And you say, that's how the scholars did, they used to name and shame. And the simple thing to understand is, wallahi, this brother that is speaking, if he was alive during that time of naming and shaming, wallahi, he also would be named and shamed. Do you know why? Because his memorization is bad. And they can't rely on someone whose memorization is bad. How many ahadith have you memorized in the sanad? Meaning you're also not qualified, you would be named and shamed as well. Al-insaf, justice. Justice. Why do you think the Shaykh, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, Shaykh al-Islam wrote the book, Raf'u al-Malam ala A'immat al-A'lam? That let's take the blame off these people, of these great scholars. Let's give them excuses. That's what the Sahaba, that's what they did between themselves. That's what the Salaf did between themselves. If I ask anyone today that what's the ruling of drinking water on Salah, everyone will tell me haram, ijma'an. Yes, Abdurrahman bin Auf used to drink water on Salah. Why didn't the Sahabas chase him? Why didn't the Sahabas cancel him? When I start to educate some of my students about these things, they're always saying, Wallah, you're going to get cancelled soon. I said, I don't mind if I get cancelled. If I'm being cancelled on the basis that you believe that da'wah must always be harsh and rigid on people, yeah, let me be cancelled. Ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani was cancelled. And Imam Ahmad was cancelled. And a lot of scholars like Ibn alayhi salam was cancelled. So if I'm cancelled, what's the problem? I do not care. And the reason why these brothers find that ginger to keep pushing on with these things is because they understand that human beings, we love to hear new things. We love to hear harsh things. That's how Allah created us. And an evidence for this was what happened between Salman al-Farisi and Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, rahimahumullah ta'ala. When it was the Khilafah of Umar, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman had some ahadith that alayhi salam told only him. Only he had the hadith, or all of these ahadith. No one else had it. So Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman was the Amir al-Mu'minin in Sham then. Umar ibn al-Khattab told him to regulate the affairs of Sham. So Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman will now call the people, he'll be telling them some ahadith. The alayhi salam revealed to only him. For example, the hadith where alayhi salam says, this person eats too much, this person talks too much, this person is this person is that. He starts telling people. And what people do is, when they hear the hadith, they go to Salman al-Farisi to say, this is what Hudayfa is saying. What do you have to say about this? Salman al-Farisi will say, Hudayfa a'lamu bima yaqul. Hudayfa knows what he's saying. They come back to meet Hudayfa that when we told Salman all of this ahadith, ma saddaqaka wa la kadhabak. He did not say what you were saying was right, he did not say he was wrong. He just says. So Hudayfa got angry and went to meet Salman. He said, Salman, what's wrong with you? I'm telling people that alayhi salam says this. You're telling me you don't know if it's wrong, you don't know if it's right, you do not care, you're disregarding them. What's the problem? When he got there, he says, yeah, not me, Salman. That's one other thing you'd only learn when you study. You wouldn't find them in books and you wouldn't find them in translations. When Arabs use yabna meaning the son of this person, it means that person is angry. That's the culture of Arabs. The same thing happened between Abu Bakr and Umar. When alayhi salam told Abu Bakr to speak about what happened between him and Umar, he says, Kana bayni wa bayna ibn al-Khattab shay. He did not say Kana bayni wa bayna Umar shay. He says something happened between me and the son of Khattab, meaning he's angry. So he says the same thing. Ya ibn Salman, oh you son of Salman. Salman al-Farisi was also angry. Said the same thing. Ya ibn Abd. Says, what's your problem? Why am I telling people a hadith and you're disregarding them? Do you know what Salman al-Farisi told Hudayfa? He says, don't you know that you're trying to put people in problems? Don't you know you're trying to cause fitna in this ummah? Because all of these ahadith you're mentioning, yes, alayhi salam said them. But, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يغضب فيقول. Sometimes alayhi salam is angry and he says some things. Sometimes he's happy and he says some things. But these people, you're not making them understand the context. And by doing that, تُورِثُ فِي قَوْمٍ بُغْضَ قَوْمٍ. You're making some people hate some people, and you're making some people love some people. Why? Because you're just telling them, alayhi salam says, this person eats too much. They say, oh, okay, he eats too much. You probably don't even know if alayhi salam was joking then. Maybe he was just having a laugh with the Sahaba. He now says, this is only going to cause fitna between the ummah. But it's not in the deen that way. And then brothers will come and tell you, you know, wallahi, I'm only trying to say these things because Allah may ask me, Akhi, if anything happens to Islam, Allah is not going to ask you. Why? Because Allah did not even give you the knowledge. You don't even have the knowledge, so Allah is not going to ask you. Just relax. What did you study at uni? Chemistry, continue your chemistry. What did you study? Medicine, be a medical doctor. Islam is not for everyone. In terms of speaking on behalf of Allah. That's why Imam Ibn Qayyim, he wrote a book, and he called the book إِعْلَامُ الْمُوَقِّعِينَ عَنْ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We are creating an awareness to everyone out there who wants to sign a signature on behalf of Allah, because whenever you speak on behalf of Allah, you've signed a signature on behalf of Allah. And they'll say, Wallah, if I do not condemn this, if I do not say this, then I might be a munafiq. You know, Allah might hold me accountable because I saw something bad and I did not correct it. The question is it everything you see you have to do the same way by naming and shaming? No, you can always come to the minbar. Go wherever you want to go. Say that thing that people do that is bad and leave those who do it. It's that easy. Sheikh Bin Baz, when someone wants to ask him a question in his majalis, the person says, "Ya Sheikh, there is someone who..." Sheikh says, No. We don't want to hear the person. What we want to hear is what the person did, because we don't want to know the person. So are you telling me that the instances where alayhi salam would be between Abu Bakr and Umar and the Sahaba talking, and someone says something and Abu Bakr keeps quiet and Umar takes action, so you're telling me Abu Bakr is going to be a sinner because he did not talk? Because he did not find it suitable for him to speak, so he kept quiet. So you're going to think in that case, anyone who doesn't talk about this person is this. They've probably seen things and heard things and read things that you haven't seen, you haven't heard, you haven't read. So they believe it's best to keep quiet, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Today we're all trying to scatter everything. Let this ones be this ones, let this ones be this ones, let this Salafiyun be Salafiyun, let this be this, let Ikhwani be Ikhwani, let Kada be Kada, let Kada be Kada. Obviously people have differences, but is it our happiness to fool these differences? No. The Madhahib al-Arba'a, everyone chants today, Hanbali, Hanafi, Maliki, this. Do you know how it came about? After a series of wars, after a series of problems, of debates, of issues, of fights, of conflicts, of crisis, before we could merge between these four and say, all right, these are the heading four madhahib we should use. Do you think it just came easy like that? Wallahi, it was not easy. Wallahi, a lot of problems happened. Ashhab bin Abdul Aziz was one of the scholars of the Malikiyya. Ashhab would make sujood to Allah and say, Allahumma amit al-Shafi'iyya. Oh Allah, kill Shafi'i. Why? Because he wants to take away the knowledge of Malik. When the issue gets to that level that you're praying for Allah to take someone's life, do you think it's a joke? The scholars witnessed all of these things happen. And it took them years to bring together the Muslims. And today we want to divide the congregation. We want to segregate everyone. We do not want to bring people close anymore. هذه فتنة, هذه مصيبة. For example, someone who witnessed World War II would never pray for war to happen. You only want everything to scatter and get divided because you never witnessed what happened then. And even if you did not witness it, go read about it. A lot of people will do things that the scholars will just keep quiet. Why? Because they do not want problems. Because they know that when they talk about this, the problems that are actually going to generate out of this would be more than that evil you're trying to correct in the first place. That's how alayhi salam was. Why did alayhi salam kill the munafiqun? He says, I do not want people to say that Muhammad is killing his people, because they wouldn't understand, even though he knows that they have the right to be killed. Think about it, brothers. Don't let no one fool you. Don't let anyone tell you your iman is weak just because you're not refuting and condemning. No, Allah's not going to ask you on Qiyamah, why didn't you condemn this person? Instead, Allah will ask you if you condemn that person and say, no, what's the condemnation? And you will bear the consequences. So a lot of brothers today try to fool us and say, SubhanAllah, look at this brother, someone is saying something, you can't even speak, you can't even do this, you can't even do that. Wallah, this is nifaq, your iman level is low. Leave my iman level, you have nothing to do with it. My iman is between me and Allah. You shouldn't be concerned. It is my iman. Yes, leave it alone. Because you refute someone, because you call someone a Muqtadiya, I should also see him as a Muqtadiya. Who says so? Never. It doesn't work that way. Labeling and naming and shaming, all of these things, there is no qala Allah, qala Rasul about this. It is based on ijtihad. Allah did not tell you that this person is a munafiq. So, based on your own ijtihad, after assessing the person, if you think that based on what I have seen, this person is a mubtadi', then fine. You don't have to expect me to see it the same way. When Imam Ahmad did the tabqir of Imam al-Qarabisi, did the scholars of that time as well, did everyone accept it? No. Did Imam Ahmad make tabqir of others because they did not accept his tabqir of Imam al-Qarabisi? Never. It doesn't work that way. You see it that way, you see that this person is a mubtadi', okay, use that judgment between you and him and Allah. La tulzimni bi. You don't have to make it compulsory upon me to see the person the same way. Wallahu musta'an. Islam is not practiced based on emotions. Islam is practiced based on adillah. And ikhwa, I say and I repeat, filter your externals. If you have people like that, cut them off from your life. Because they're going to do nothing but drag you to statements before Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. And if Allah can ask you Yawm al-Qiyamah that why did you do this, you're definitely getting punished. Because alayhi salam says, Man husiba udhiba. Anyone Allah asks him any question, Allah is definitely going to punish him. So Allah's not going to ask you, why didn't you refuse this person? Why didn't you make tabqir of this person? So stay away from it. Stay away from it. You're quoting evidences from Sheikh Bin Baz, Sheikh Al-Albani, Ibn Uthaymin, Layth bin Sa'ad, Sa'id bin Musayyib, Malik, Al-Ala, Al-Zuhri, Al-Layth, and all of them. But these people, even when they refute people, some people do not see it that way. And it's fine, they accept it. They're all brothers between themselves. And some of this qawaid you bring that, you say this person said this about this person. Do you know how many people at that time refuted what he said? You would never know. Why? Because you never studied. All you watched were YouTube videos and you read some translations in time. So now you think you have the authority. Let's actually start from you. Let's bring you to the Mizan al-Sharia and scale you on the scale of the Sharia and even see if you're worth taking from before we can listen to you. أقول ما تسمعون أستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه الغفور الرحيم قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إن الذين يحبون أن تشيع الفاحشة في الذين آمنوا لهم عذاب أليم في الدنيا والآخرة والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وإن يريدوا
أن يخدعوك فإن حسبك الله هو الذي أيدك بنصره وبالمؤمنين وألف بين قلوبهم لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألفت بين قلوبهم ولكن الله ألف بينهم إنه عزيز حكيم. يا أيها النبي حسبك الله ومن اتبعك من المؤمنين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة